Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we got folks in red and black double T's stacking hardware over the weekend, but the question remains, when football?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, kicking off another week with some exciting stuff to touch on today's episode. We'll get to what went down over the weekend, including some Red Raider dignitaries stacking some more hardware. We'll also get to, of course, what that kind of feels like it means, or what it means for Texas Tech football this fall, as you're having some success in multiple directions, and we're wondering whether or not that might add even a little bit more pressure to what is being asked of Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders coming up this season. But we will kick it off on a round ball front, Chris, because we've actually got some news to discuss, and it relates to some business we discussed on our last episode on Friday. We had some questions in the mailbag about scheduling possibilities for Grant McCaslin and the Red Raider men's basketball team. I do think we also specifically had a mention about Dickey's Arena rumors, and that's where we'll begin, as it's no longer a rumor. You will once again be back in Fort Worth, this time around for a date with the Bayou Bengals of LSU. What do you think?
Well, the location and the time frame doesn't surprise me at all, just because, you know, we had discussed this multiple. I think there's an interest in doing this. I mean, annually, or an attempt to. I just think there's an interest from the promoter to lure Texas Tech there, and I think Texas Tech has an interest as well because of the time frame. This isn't exactly, I don't think, like when you're kicked out of your arena kind of time frame. It may be just a titch early, but it's still in that sweet spot. But this is the exact Sunday, December the 7th. It's the Sunday after the Big 12 title football game. It's the exact Sunday that you played A&M at Dickey's Arena last year. So really it's, and I would look for that to potentially continue. We'll see. I bet this is part of a series of games on that particular day, with this matchup being a bit of a headliner. I would think that LSU won't have hardly anybody there. You could have the whole place full, and like it was last year. But you know, LSU they have been really good in recent years. They weren't very good last year. Matt McMahon is the new head coach after, I think he took over for Will Wade. But you know, they were 3-15 last year in the SEC, and as good as the SEC was last year, LSU was not really a part of that. But it's still an RPI, or an opportunity to create some momentum for yourself, and it's about your team as much as it is the other team. But taking the show to the Metroplex is, I think, really what you're looking for when you're trying to. Now you've got a couple of extra opportunities that you need to create for yourself from testing yourself outside of the league, now that you're going to only an 18-game conference schedule. So this makes total sense. And now we'll look for what other MTEs, which just stands for multi-team event, that you may be involved with around Thanksgiving, and maybe another one in December. Some rumors about you going to, I think, the Bahamas with the Purdue. There was a lot of Texas Tech discussion out of West Lafayette that you may be joining Purdue in that event. You haven't been announced. I think there's one spot left. Maybe that's been filled. I can't remember, but nothing I've seen from Texas Tech standpoint. Either way, though, taking the show to Cowtown makes total sense, and we semi-expected it, I guess. Just weren't exactly sure who you would be matched up against.
I'm kind of curious. I guess when it comes to the non-conference portion of your schedule, there's kind of three components, at least, that I've thought about over time. One is obviously improving yourself as a team via facing challenges. That's sort of some intangible basketball aspect of it. There's also the resume impact of it. And then there is the entertainment value aspect of it for us, the fans. I'm sure we're last on that list, but I'm kind of curious going back to last season. Was an argument sort of made that we don't need to bend over backwards in the non-conference? We have success in the Big 12, then we're going to be where we want to be. We're going to be as tough of a team as we want to be. The resume will be what it needs to be. And again, the fan aspect, the entertainment value of it, I hate that argument because I want exciting stuff every week and big challenges and big matchups, but easier said than done. So what argument do you think was actually made when it comes to last year's experience? Because the non-con was pretty light.
Yeah, I think you're kind of blindfolded a bit with first of all, maybe they know, but do they know for sure who they're going to get in conference? Do they know? Is it 2 versus Houston again? Is it? Are you going to Allen Fieldhouse again? Are you playing BYU 1 or 2 times? I mean, with these other teams, they're supposed to be really good. How many of that is on your conference schedule? Because it just fell right, and you got the right ones last year too. But this was also the difference between. It's why you were probably never considered to be like a 2 or even a 1. You just weren't in that conversation. A lot of this had to do with your non-conference schedule. Just had 0 punch to it. You were still a 3, and you did relatively well, and all those things. But so I think if my thing is, I think he knows he's going to have a really good team. And maybe he wants to test it a bit more, but there's also some of this that's out of your control too. Like what events can we get in? A lot of these are already announced in full. Maybe there's another neutral site game to be had. Because people always like look at Kansas and always like, man, Kansas isn't even doing that given the Big 12. And yet they're still listed as like a 4 or 5 seed, and they're like 8th in the league. It's because they play like Michigan State and Duke and North Carolina and on in the non-conference. And again, remember the committee, they don't care whether it's a game in November or on March the 10th. It all counts the same is the way that they want to tell you about it. So if some of those teams that you beat in November and December end up being very good, it only adds to your situation. So you're going to have to step it up a bit more than you did last year, just because there's less, there's less opportunity in conference play. Obviously, 2 games less that aren't going to just kill you. I'm not saying you have to go play, Purdue and I just mentioned them because they're potentially preseason number 1. Houston may be that, but I'm not saying you have to just go crazy with it. But I think there needs to be a bit more than you did last year. But your point is valid in that you did really well without that last year, but you also won the right games. And what if you don't have an opportunity at Houston this next year? Yeah. What if that's not on the schedule?
Your point is valid as well, Chris. I'm going to recognize the validity of your point. Well, because I think you are right when you talk about that split between being a 1 or 2 versus where you wound up as a 3. And I guess my biggest concern has just always been, are you going to be in for some rude awakening when you get to Big 12 time if you haven't really tested yourself or challenged yourself in a big way from a non-conference perspective? And I just haven't seen that yet for Texas Tech. That certainly was not the case last year for Texas Tech. Now we know that as a team, you were kind of a maybe longer running than expected work in progress, but then eventually you were clicking and really rounded into form and obviously became one of the best in the nation. But we'll be curious to hear, obviously, from those viewers and listeners out there and how you assess the non-conference schedule. And again, I know from an entertainment and fan standpoint, we want interesting things all the time. But I think there's also a legitimate, curiosity or wonder about how does this affect you from a basketball standpoint? Because you can't just go cupcake after cupcake after cupcake and expect to be the kind of team or in sort of the form you want to be in when conference play arrives. But I don't know, maybe we've seen that there's more slack on the line in that regard than we might have thought. I don't know. And the Big 12 schedule changing is an interesting wrinkle to this as well, and maybe what you're wanting to do resume-wise. And I'll just endorse the idea I have for football as well. You can't get a trip to Houston on your Big 12 schedule, or you can't get the Cougars there or whoever you're missing. You want to call them up and see if they want to meet up somewhere in November. I mean, I'd I know that, like you're talking about flying blind or sort of flying off the cuff, that's all wrapped up in those types of things. But I'd get pretty creative, I think, maybe if I was really trying to spice up the non-conference. But we'll see what they're able to do. And certainly would believe that some recent results would indicate that you handled it just fine, even though it was fairly light. From a basketball sense, you were still obviously a very good basketball team. And you had difficulty in the Big 12 like everybody did, but you gave as good as you got. There's no doubt about that in the Big 12 conference. Chris, I do want to touch on what we think, well, Grant McCaslin is kind of joining the ranks of, or hopefully heading toward joining the ranks of, and that's those who are collecting hardware. First, today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You're going to love the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and our code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Chris, I do want to touch on what we think, well, Grant McCaslin is kind of joining the ranks of, or hopefully heading toward joining the ranks of, and that's those who are collecting hardware. We've got from the weekend a couple of shout outs to offer up. One of these already entrenched as much of a Red Raider legend as anyone on campus, and Coach Kitley with his track and field program, and more success, more trophies for them over the weekend. Another guy heading there very quick as far as Coach Glasgow from the Red Raider softball program, as they're doing things that program has never done before, now advancing to a super regional to add to a resume that includes regular season and conference tournament championships and his first go round in Lubbock. Want to acknowledge, obviously, their accomplishments and celebrate those. But in a minute, I want to get to a bigger picture kind of question with you as it relates to your front door of your athletics department, that being the football program. And, man, we're seeing a lot of success all around it. But does that lead to maybe even more pressure for that football program to catch up? But, man, I know you were excited just like I was to see Coach Glasgow and Coach Kitley have big-time success over the weekend.
Yeah, what Wes has done is just, it's remarkable. I mean, he kind of, this was there was a bit of a first that happened because he had never swept the men's and women's in the outdoor in the Big 12 before, and this was the first. But I mean, their trophy case and his fingers are running out of space with these rings, but it's just so much hardware, and it's like stuff that it's just, these are the things that stand the test of time. I mean, you are the face of the sport in the Big 12 conference as it relates to track and field because of Wes Kitley and what he continues to do. He's done it. He's done it consistently. They do it in indoor and outdoor and whatever. You just and in some cases you're just blowing some of these other programs out. And I think there'll be some serious noise to make at the national level in the coming weeks as well as it relates to Coach Kitley. He's won an outdoor national championship and an indoor. I mean, it's just on and on. It's just I don't see that stopping. I mean, this is somebody that is as humble as he is about where they are. He's just as driven. And they're just kind of got that thing rolling. And then I watched a lot of this softball from Rocky Johnson Field over the weekend on ESPN and ESPN Plus and wherever it was at, and seeing that place full. It's just fun to see so many people having fun because, again, you'd already won the Big 12. You'd won the Big 12 tournament. Now you get to host and you advance past that. Now you're headed to Tallahassee for the super regionals next weekend, and it's all uncharted territory. And it wasn't lost on me. Kirby and his sweet wife Diane were sitting in the front row, and Joey McGuire sitting in like the third or fourth row right there in full view. And it's not just them, but like I thought about like the two programs we talk the most about on this show is football and basketball. With as much investment, I mean, at some point, yeah, you want to see some like legit return on it. And they both of these coaches, trust me. I mean, and if somebody assumes incorrectly there, then shame on you. But these are two guys that put a tremendous amount of pressure on themselves. That they are scratching and clawing and trying to operate in the margins, looking for any small advantage they can get, whether it's a recruit or a staff member or an analytic or whatever, or an NIL donation, whatever it may be. But you start to see other folks having success, and you can't help but feel pressure. And yet these are the two sports that it's hardest to do. It's hardest at this level because this is what takes the most resources. It takes the most commitment. You need a little luck because everybody else is trying to do the same thing. Not everybody's trying to win big in softball. Not everybody's trying to win big in track and field. But more often than not, everybody's trying to win and not necessarily in men's hoops or even football, if that makes sense. But more of them are in those two sports than anything else, because that's what ultimately matters in the grand scheme of things, and that's what makes the money, and that's what people know the most whenever you do well in it.
Even if you stink, and maybe that's an exaggeration, but even if you're just middling, those things are generating revenue. But if you can win on a big level, they are double, triple, quadrupling generating revenue for your athletics department. So obviously there's a money aspect of it, but there's also a visibility aspect of it that impacts the university entirely. I think we talked about that once last week. I mean, enrollment figures and everything is better whenever you are relevant on a national stage. Basketball has checked that box. We're not left wanting in that regard anymore. Tubby Smith restored a pulse to your program. Chris Beard took you to a national final. You've made it repeat relevant NCAA tournament runs. To me, relevant is Sweet 16 or better. And you're just coming off of an Elite 8 appearance in your coach's second year. So you're there. I think you're firmly entrenched, and I hope I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I think you are relevant in a big way from a men's basketball standpoint right now. Fair. When football catches up, time will only tell, but obviously the effort is there. Chris, I get a big – you want to offer something there on the basketball aspect?
No, you're dead on. I don't disagree. I do think at some point you want to add a regular season conference championship, a tournament, a conference tournament, something with as much money as being put into this. I think that stuff is important because that is you just have throughout all you talked about. You do have a Final Four appearance, but then you just have one shared league title. And no, tournament, conference or anything like that. So because those are because what softball just did, this is now their 08 football season. This is the season that everything going forward will be measured by. This was a first, and they're just checking things off the box. Semi-expected, semi-unexpected. I'll let others debate that are more experts in their field there, but. In track, I mean, he's just almost made this normal. He's just like, yeah. And before we move on, I just with Wes, I mean, does he get a freeway? Does he get a statue? Does he get both? I mean, is there something else we need to do? Do we need to give him, the key and all the keys to the city? I mean, what? Because this guy is literally we've talked about this before. He's a living legend that continues to add to his legacy, and. I mean, he's as good on that campus as anybody that there is, and the hardware. I mean, because you're piling up conference championships, plural, to add to your national championships, plural. I mean, that's nobody's really done these, especially when you add the S to the end of it. This is a whole different deal, but it's special and. And I'm sure that people are going, okay, when can we do this and some of these other things? So I think that's a very fair question to ask.
When football is the question that continues.
Yeah, right.
To attack me every day. Look, there's no more crowded trophy cases on campus than West Kitley's track and field trophy case. and the Texas Tech meat judging trophy case. So shout out to them also, plural trophies.
And the cheerleaders. The cheerleaders are really
good as well. Yeah, the pep
right.
squad, they're doing good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, the softball thing, that's got to be one of the best NIL returns on investment in the nation, any sport that anybody's seen so far. And it's impossible to probably gauge that because I don't know what every team or athlete has done that somebody went hard after and went big to get. But Tech did that with Nigeri Kennedy. I think they've got a really good head coach too. So it's not just all about Kennedy, but it's a lot about Kennedy. When you're reading things about a coach that's never lost a series anywhere he's been, I mean, that sounds pretty good to me. But the ROI on this is incredible for softball supporters out there in red and black because you went and made it happen, and then they made it happen all season long. And it's one of those things that serves to me, Chris, as an example of the great side of name, image, and likeness monetization. And I've said it many times before, I'm not sentimental about college sports. I was born in 1984. I was born in the era of the program. I was born in the era of this is one of the filthiest businesses going. And I've been fine with that all along. I still watch every Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever, when it's hoop season. But this is one of those things that to me, I'm like, wait, you don't like this ability to totally change the fortunes of a middling or worse program if you've got a person that's motivated and resourced to do so? I was given these type of hypotheticals before this era really began, several years back. Like, man, if you got Joe Blow that really loves this particular sport or program for whoever, they can all of a sudden now really make a difference. And I'll be danged if we didn't get a great example of that with the softball program in Lubbock. And I think that's the NIL narrative that never gets repeated or told. It's all about, diva, overpaid football players, and out of high school, Quinn Ewers got $1 million con. Oh, it's a wreck. It's chaotic. It's a shame. It's a trap. Nah. What about a situation like this? Almost overnight change your life?
And did I was trying to find it as you were sitting there talking right there, because I don't know whether it was the Tech softball account or the Tech athletics account or whatever. Because a lot of the times these social media folks, they have fun at each other's expense. There's some barbs thrown back and forth. And, this Mississippi State team was one that beat Texas Tech back in, I don't know, it was February or March or something in the non-conference. And they won a game, and I think they had a barb like, we're feeling like $1 million, and it took a shot. And so Texas Tech, somebody there, I don't know if they deleted it or not. They thought we shouldn't do that, but they responded after the game yesterday. But to your point, that was a well publicized NIL scenario, and you're right. She's been worth every penny if your goal was immediate success. And I think it could start a bit of a run here. She's fully expected back next year. And I think they will add.
Right? I really didn't know what the future looked like for her.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, she will. I think that she may already have, set that up, and they have set that up, that she will return, and she'll have a lot more pieces added to that roster to be announced at some point soon. But yeah, I mean, I would find it hard to believe there's nobody out there that, there was as much return on investment, and we'll see where it goes. Now, this was keep in mind the bar was fairly low. This isn't, because in some cases you're saying, hey, national championship or bust, or Final Four or College World Series or bust. I don't know if you were there with this yet. I can't say that. There's just no chance that somebody's going to say, if you don't get to the College World Series, that this was a failure. No way. Like, I won't buy that. I won't listen to that. Some may feel like, oh, you could have gotten there, but I mean, compared to where this program used to be, this is all uncharted territory, and you've now exceeded that with a conference championship and a conference tournament championship and a hosting situation that you advance from and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just it's been a lot of fun to kind of watch that thing work. And boy, you'd like to have some of this other stuff work for you too, that you have invested in.
No question. I mean, look, the sort of like sickening, chaotic aspect of college sports right now to me has nothing to do with the money. I could not care any less about these dollar figures as they relate to these athletes. It's all about free agency every 365 days. That is the thing that is sending it off, spinning into the distance, way off the rails. I'll put it on my tombstone. 365 days free agency every time around is the problem, not the monetization. That's going to be an expensive tombstone. That's a lot of chiseling. I'm going to have to shorten that up, but you get what I'm saying. But yeah, Chris, as for that front door, before we get out of here, I know we're all waiting on it to show up. We're all waiting for that battleship to be turned around. That's kind of the way that we've always described it, right? Like, hey, you can go impact a basketball roster. You can go impact maybe even a softball roster or some of these other things very quickly. I feel like I've been hearing that for, God, I don't know. How long have I been in sports radio or podcasting or sports broadcasting? Yeah. When will the battleship get turned around? And I got to tell you, there are some examples out there of that son of a gun being spun around like overnight. And it kind of depends on every circumstance, how bad off you were before and where you wind up after. But I think we are like getting into some really crucial moments here for the Joey Maguire era. We all love Joey, but the honeymoon has got to be over by now. It's got to be stand up and deliver time. You've delivered on the excitement and the investment and the enthusiasm, no question. And you certainly have restored a baseline pulse to the program. That's good. But achieving in a hardware or, again, nationally relevant kind of way, we're still waiting on. And I'd like to think a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's what I'm going to choose to believe as a Tech fan right now. But I do kind of wonder what pressure that rising tide creates for the biggest boat we got and the one that so far is still kind of chained to the dock.
Yeah, because, I mean, Coach Glasgow, I mean, this is his first year, too. I mean, not only is it the best in program history, this is year one. But there's also no one player that can have as much impact on a football team like Kennedy did for the softball team. It just doesn't exist. Yeah. I don't care how fast a receiver or running back is or how good a quarterback is or how special an edge rusher. It just takes way too much. And, you know, and keep in mind, I mean, this is there is absolutely pressure. But this isn't like a get to the title game or else, or get to the playoff or else scenario for Joey. He didn't ask these people to donate all this money. They willingly did it. They wanted to do it. They want to help. And if it doesn't work, you will keep swinging away at it and keep trying to figure it out. This isn't like hey, the chips are literally all in the middle and we don't have any more chips. No, you're going to keep swinging away at it. You like the guy that's there, but absolutely there's pressure. Absolutely. That just comes with the territory. Expectations change. And I think you created some of that on your own last year by being just right there. I mean, we heard the man, how it was just extremely nauseating for him to watch the Big 12 title game last year, knowing his group had beaten both teams. You know, I mean, that's like a sickening irony, you know, just like a giant tease. And I think, but that's also what led to a lot of this. Hey man, they're right there. We need to nudge them or push them over the edge, or roll the boulder downhill. Whatever analogy you want to use. I mean, they went all in, and then when they started rolling, it was like, let's roll some more boulders down the hill. Like, you know, there's just so much going on here, and you just kept adding, and you've still done it, right? So,
yeah. Hey, by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, like, when you were about to push that boulder, you're like, oh, grab our 2 new coordinators. Don't forget our 2 new coordinators. So I feel like there's this I mean, there's this crescendo that's sort of happening, but at the same time, you got 2 brand new coordinators as we enter the season. That's something we're going to be keeping in mind.
And it's just one of which was your choice, the other one which you just meant like, hey, we get it, go be great, you know, the whole deal. But that just can't get lost on this dynamic here. That's a lot. I mean, we've done this before. Like we did this a couple of years ago when you had both coordinators and the starting quarterback back and the head coach back, and you were one of like, I think it was like 18 to 20 programs in the country that could check that box. And so there's data that backs up that is like, okay, you're not going to suck. In fact, you could be really good. with those boxes checked, and I sure enough, you didn't suck. You were actually really, really good. You just weren't quite good enough. So anyway, we shall see. But it's fun to see some of this other stuff happening for sure. But it certainly adds to the pressure, and people want to see it happen in the fall too.
Yeah, congrats to those having big time success over the weekend. Guns up to everybody enjoying that, of course. And best of luck on trying to keep the season alive as we roll through another weekend into another weekend. Enjoyed it as always, Chris. We got plenty more to get to this week, so looking forward to the next one already. We'll see you then.
Yes, sir. You betcha. We'll talk to everybody next time. Keep hope alive, people.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thank you to the everydayers for being there once again. Every day, it's in the title. And shout out to the Matador Mob. Appreciate you and the conversation over the weekend. You can hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. If you're interested in joining that outlaw crew, that's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.